friend? My sister. It's complicated. Hey, I made it. I don't think the place has actually changed at all in the last 40 years since you were here. Hello? And wow, the moon. I wish you were here to see it. I love you, Mama.
Well, is she cute?
She's actually a little creepy. I accidentally looked in the window of her place last night.
She's creepy?
I don't know, there's something about her that's just weird. I can't quite put my finger on it, but she makes me nervous. Oh! Oh.
Uh, that's a really good question. I think there's just something about the idea that an individual can have a power that controls something in their lives. I mean, it's one of the things that goes back to, like, there's a very large witch community that actually exists. They're self-identifying. And one of the sort of common themes between them all, because some are Wiccan, some are not, some are pagan, some are just have their own practice. But it goes back to that self-empowerment, that idea that you have the power within you. And I think that that's attractive to people. We like to have more power in our lives. Sometimes we feel helpless or hopeless or out of control. And so the idea that you have something you could harness, you know, and in past witch movies, there's a lot of harm that's done, with the exception of maybe like a Bewitched or something. A Bewitched is a positive image of a witch, but a lot of times it's not a positive image of a witch, um, which also goes against what most witches today are, what part of their philosophy is about, positive change and the earth and treating the earth well and animals well. And it's just interesting the way we've absorbed it. But I will tell you, I mean, I've also always had a love of watching anything with witches in it. And in fact, I had just watched the whole Discovery of Witches series right before I started thinking about what was my next project. So I know it bled into it. I just took it in a different direction. I think, well, it started a little bit with a rudimentary idea. I want something with witches and something with a ghost. I have another film called Crazy Bitches, which was a horror comedy. And so I was thinking that maybe I should stay in that vein and kind of pursue that. But I was also doing this with my friend Miriam Hassler, who plays Danny. And so a lot of things came together. Her mother is a psychic, and she grew up in an environment of, tarot and crystal and things like that. And so I was using her for ideas too, like, tell me about your past, tell me about your experience with your mom, tell me what your life is like as a kid. And all that started coming together. And then I just started watching a bunch of movies, and I landed on Practical Magic, which I forgot how much I loved. And that's when it all started clicking for me. But I had done so much work before that movie represented itself. I think it's just a collection of moments between December when Miriam and I talked about doing something, and you know, February, March when I finally clicked into the space that I entered. So I think it was in the end a nice meld of moments that came together. Yeah, yeah, no, I wanted to approach it as a very real thing. I did a lot of research on today's witch. Um, Danny's a green witch. That's a category of witch that is practicing right now. And so I did a lot of research on today's witch, what their philosophies are, what could be possible, and then also a lot of research on ghosts and like what is kind of the common accepted tropes of a ghost. It's that they're rooted in things that have happened to people. They're not just made up out of Hollywood. So I wanted it to feel as absolutely real as it could possibly feel, while also layering a little bit of awareness on top of it. I mean, I reference The Craft, Thelma and Louise, it's like your classic best friend, relationship, and I wanted that for Penny and Eve. And so I was aware as I was putting these things into the movie, but at the same time, I wanted the base of it to feel absolutely real, absolutely organic. And even though Danny has some powers that maybe are a little heightened from reality, I was very thoughtful as I was building them into the script and actually then into the edit. So once I finished the first edit, I started thinking to myself, what do I want? How far do I want to take this? Like, I don't want it to lose the sense that this could actually happen, you know? So I was very aware through the whole thing. It was an interesting process, actually. I mean, at a general level, I think some of it was influenced by practical magic and the way they dealt with their magic. But I also thought, there's Nina was a little girl when she died. She was 12. And if you leave it up to the audience, there's a tendency to go to darkness right away. Oh, there's a ghost in the house and they're dangerous and they're scary. And I wanted to make sure that the audience understood she was still a 12-year-old girl having fun, goofing around, and still had the spirit of a 12-year-old and the kind of, my husband likes to call it Tinkerbell, like that little Tinkerbell effect seemed to lend itself to that. And then I also wanted her to appear as a ghost in more human form because I wanted the audience to feel the attachment of Danny and Nina. Their relationship is incredibly important. This film is, on the surface, it's a rom-com and there's a love story and all that stuff, but it's just as equally important because it's about family, family love, relationships between parents and children, siblings. And it's also about friendship. And so without showing Nina, I felt like we would lose the joy she has as a child, even though she's no longer around, and B, the connection between her and Danny, which in the end needs to be there to make the end work. It's interesting because actually I originally wrote the role of Eve for Miriam because I wanted her to have the lead, and Eve is the larger role. Um, and then we had cast somebody else for the witch, and it was actually an actress I'm working with on something else, and she is actually a witch, and I loved that symmetry. But she had to drop out at the last minute. And Miriam said to me, Jane, why don't I take the role of the witch? It's a smaller role, and then we can open up the other role for maybe more of a name person. Um, and then when we both said, yeah, that's a great idea, we both realized she actually was Danny. I mean, I had written to her all along. And so that moment that happened that, which was at first very disappointing when this actress dropped out, became a benefit to me. And then I went back and I did this sort of look through. I wanted a lesbian to play the lesbian. I wanted to make sure we were, standing true to that. And I looked up, lesbian actresses, top 100, whatever. And Diora popped up, and I haven't done that list before, and I've never seen her. And as soon as she popped up, I was like, oh my God, please tell me she can act because this could not be better. And then, we took a little bit of a flyer on whether there was going to be energy there, whether they were going to have chemistry. But having talked to Dior and spent a little time with her and knowing Miriam well, I felt like there was going to be a nice gelling because they're a little bit different, but also they both come from this very loving space. And then it really just worked. They're also both very, very good actresses. And we had a very joyous set. And I think that lends itself to actors having a bond or some sort of chemistry together. But yeah, it feels real. Their relationship really, really feels real, I think. Yeah, I didn't even think twice. That wasn't even part of my reasoning at all. I mean, I started with Miriam. I mean, we've always wanted to work together. So, I mean, I could have written an older role for her and brought two younger girls in, but that's not my reality. And so I'm like, why does everything have to be young chicks running around? Do you know what I mean? These women are absolutely drop dead gorgeous. They're absolutely drop dead gorgeous. The sex scenes are hot. You don't need to be 20 to actually have people agree with that, you know? And it was interesting because I was at a festival last week, and this 21, 22, 23-year-old guy comes up to me, and we were chatting, and he said, you know what I thought was really fresh about your movie? I mean, I thought it was really fresh that you had older women. And then he kind of felt bad. He said older, and I was like, oh, it's okay. I like they, we're not blind, but he's like, because you're just used to these young girls running around in these movies like this. And I was like, yeah, I just didn't. But no, it didn't even occur to me that I should do that. And maybe from a sales point of view, people would say, oh, you're better off and you'll sell more. But I think that that's a sales that's in the salesperson's mind. I don't think that's in the public mind. I think the public wants to see a good movie and be taken on a ride. And it's not like they're 80 and they're having sex. It's, you know what I mean? It's two gorgeous women. So, and it felt real because it also gave them history. It made them deeper. They'd been through relationships or felt very alone because they couldn't have a relationship. In Danny's case, she was very bound to where she was living. And I think that long history of experience also lends itself to a deepening of character that you wouldn't have with a 25-year-old, you know? So far, so good. In all honesty, I hadn't intended to do the festival circuit. I didn't make a festival movie, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I made everything I did was with the goal of making a commercial film. Sort of a general public rom-com, something that anybody could go see and enjoy. And festival movies tend to go, they're either looking for a message or they need it really skewed toward like if it's LGBTQ, they want it about that community, or, they tend to be more myopic in a way, looking for very specific things. And so I was like, nah, that's not what I want to make. But my sales agent's like, you got to get pull quotes, you have to do press, you want people talking, you want the laurels, you need to, when we go in to sell it at AFM, they need to know that other people like it and other people care about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, fine. So unfortunately we were out of money. So I just started saying, hi, this is me. Can I get a fee waiver? Hi, you don't know me, but I could really use a fee waiver. And some people have been kind enough to do that. And some of my regular places have taken us in too. So so far the audience reaction has been like really, really good. And we've had a really nice mixed crowd. I mean, men like it as well as women, LGBTQ. We've had witches in the audience who are like over the moon about it. So I'm feeling very confident at this point that I think that the majority of people that watch it will enjoy it and get something out of it. Yeah.
Maybe I have a little magic of my own.